Chapter 1, The Saintess Who Hated Mornings. Lisa hated mornings. Not in the usual groggy, stretch-agnon kind of way that most people did. No, Lisa hated mornings because they came armed with expectations. By sunrise, the entire holy order was already in motion. Priests preparing sermons. Knights sharpening their swords. Acolytes lining up, hopeful and wide-eyed, waiting for blessings. And in the middle of it all, was her. The Saintess. Divine symbol of purity, discipline, and unwavering faith. She yanked the heavy blanket over her head and groaned into her pillow. A knock came at her chamber door, polite, but firm. Saintess Lisa, the morning prayer is in 10 minutes. Lisa muttered something that could only be described as unholy. Another knock followed. Abbot insists you should not skip breakfast again. He's outside the door. Of course he was. With a heavy sigh, Lisa flung the blanket off and sat up. Her silver blonde hair was a wild, tangled mess, more haunted doll than divine messenger. Bright, clear eyes, far too alert for her mood, glared up at the intricately carved wooden ceiling. Can't a holy woman get 5 minutes to herself? Outside, metal clinked. Boots shuffled. Then came his voice, cheerful, loud, and hopelessly sincere. "Good morning, Lady Lisa. I brought toast. And also a boiled egg. But I dropped the egg. So, toast. With honey." Lisa pinched the bridge of her nose. "Abbot, do you have to guard me while I eat too?" "Yes," he replied without pause. Anything could happen. Assassins. Poison. A cursed spoon. "A cursed spoon?" she echoed flatly. "You never know," he said, as if that explained everything. This was her life now. Holy power. Political responsibility. And a personal knight who had no concept of boundaries. Dragging herself out of bed, Lisa padded barefoot across the cool floor and cracked the door open. There he was. Abbot. In full armor, holding out a piece of toast wrapped in a napkin, grinning like a puppy who'd just fetched a stick. "Eat quickly," he said brightly. "Then I'll escort you to the morning prayer." She stared at the toast. Then at him. "You're not going to follow me to the bathroom again, are you?" "I would never," he said, thoroughly scandalized. Then added, in a smaller voice, "unless you asked." She shut the door in his face. The prayer hall was blindingly bright. Marble pillars reached toward the heavens, catching the morning sun like mirrors. Rows of priests stood robed and still. Knights in gleaming armor stood at attention. All eyes turned as Lisa entered. She walked slowly. Gracefully. Every step was measured. Every movement choreographed. A performance perfected by practice. Inside, though? Inside, she was screaming. All she wanted was one normal day. A quiet afternoon. A nap. Maybe a warm cup of tea, without 20 people watching her sip it like it was divine nectar. But she was the Saintess. The chosen one. Expected to bless the crops. Heal the sick. Banish demons. Speaking of demons. A chill crept down her spine. Not the chill of cold air, but something else. A tingle across the skin. The kind of awareness that made the hairs on the back of her neck rise. She turned slightly. Scanned the pews. Just the usual faces. Priests. Worshippers. Abbot, adjusting his boots awkwardly. And yet, the feeling lingered. Lisa took her place at the altar and raised her hands. "May the light of the heavens bless us all." Her voice faltered. There, in the back row. In the shadows. A man she had never seen before. Tall. Lean. Hair dark as midnight. Eyes like burning coals. And he was smirking at her. She couldn't breathe. Who was he? Why did he look at her like that, like he was undressing her with his eyes? And why, in all the sacred spaces of her life, did his presence feel so utterly wrong? She finished the prayer, her fingers trembling just slightly. Abbot noticed. His expression sharpened. After the ceremony, Lisa turned to leave. To retreat to the solitude of her chambers. But the man was gone. No name. No trace. No reason for her heart to be racing the way it was. And yet, it was. Deep down, in the place she didn't dare examine too closely, Lisa knew. Her quiet, controlled life was about to shatter. Who is the smirking stranger in the shadows, and what does he want with the Saintess? Chapter 2, The Man with the Demon Eyes. Lisa sat motionless, her eyes fixed on the stained glass window as morning sunlight spilled into her chamber. The colored beams stretched across the cold stone floor in soft, fractured rainbows. But she wasn't praying. She was thinking. And thinking far too much. That man. Those eyes. That look that made her feel less like a saint, and more like a secret. He hadn't seemed impressed or curious like the usual pilgrims who wandered into the holy order. No, he looked like he already knew everything about her. And his smile, it wasn't reverent. It was teasing. Like he knew something she didn't. And that drove her mad. "Abbot," she said suddenly, her voice breaking the silence. From behind the curtain near her wardrobe, Abbot popped out, holding a bowl of grapes. "Yes, Saintess?" She jumped. "Were you hiding behind the curtain again?" "Only partially," he said brightly. "Would you like a fruit snack while you panic?" "I'm not panicking. You've been staring at the same spot on the wall for 20 minutes. She sighed. "Did you see a man in the back row this morning? Tall. Black hair. Eyes like," she hesitated, "like fire." Abbott's grin vanished. "No one of that description was on the approved guest list," he said, his voice low. "I memorized it." Of course he did. Lisa turned away. He felt strange. Like the room shifted the moment he entered. Abbott's hand drifted to the hilt of his sword. "Do you think he's a threat?" "I don't know," she whispered. "But he wasn't just looking at me. He was watching. Like a hunter tracking a deer." Abbott stepped closer. "Then I'll investigate." "No," she snapped, too fast. Then, more gently, "Not yet. If he's just a traveler, we don't want to scare him off." Abbott narrowed his eyes. "You're protecting a man who looked at you like you were dessert." Lisa didn't answer. Because the truth was, a wrong, deeply inappropriate part of her didn't mind being looked at like that. Later, Lisa walked alone through the Holy Order's gardens, at least, she thought she was alone. The gardens were famed for their beauty. White roses lined the path, golden lilies nodded in the sunlight, and hedges stood in perfect, silent formation. On any other day, the peace would have calmed her. But today, the air was too still. The breeze too quiet. The silence, too loud. "Why are you alone, Saintess?" a voice asked, low, velvet smooth, and dangerously calm. She spun around. He was there. Leaning against the fountain like he belonged. Same face. Same eyes. That same impossible confidence. He wore the plain brown robes of a pilgrim. But nothing about him was plain. His presence buzzed in the air like lightning about to strike. "You," she started. "Who are you?" He smiled. "Just a man who came to pray." "Pray where?" she shot back. "The demon realm?" His eyes flickered with amusement. "Touché. You're not supposed to be here," she said, taking a step back. "And yet," he said softly, "here I am." Her hand moved to the sacred charm at her waist, blessed, potent, meant to repel darkness. But it didn't react. No heat. No glow. Nothing. I know what you are, she whispered. He tilted his head, mock curious. Then you must also know I could have hurt you already, if I wanted to. That didn't help. Why are you here? She demanded. He took a step forward. Slow. Deliberate. To see you. Her breath caught. Why me? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. His eyes dropped to her lips. His smile was slow, lethal. Because you shine, Lisa. Even among saints, your light burns brighter. And he paused, I've always been drawn to the light. Her heart thundered. Get out. I'm not here to fight, he said calmly. Not today. I just wanted to see you, up close. You're insane. Possibly. But honest. You're a demon. I'm more than that, he said, taking one final step. You'll see. And just like that. He vanished. Like smoke in sunlight. When Lisa returned to her chambers, her knees nearly buckled beneath her. Abbott looked up from where he sat on the floor, polishing his sword. Did the garden betray you? She didn't answer. He stood quickly. You look like you saw a ghost. Worse, she murmured. I saw him. Again. Abbott's hand clenched around the hilt. He was here? Did he touch you? No. But he got close. Too close. Abbott's jaw tightened. I'll kill him. You can't. I can. You can't, Abbott. He's too powerful. Then I'll die trying. She looked at him. At the way his armor caught the fading light. At the fierce loyalty in his eyes. Please, she whispered, don't do anything rash. He crossed his arms. You're shaking. I hate it when you shake. I hate it too, she admitted. They sat in silence. Then Abbott knelt, unexpected, gentle, and took her trembling hand in his. He pressed it over his heart. If it ever gets too much, he said quietly, let me carry it. Even if it breaks me. Lisa stared at him. And that was when she knew. She was trapped. In duty. In fear. In the storm of feelings she wasn't allowed to have. For Derick, the man who shouldn't want her. And Abbott, the knight who did, too much. But neither of them could help her now. Because in her bones, she could feel it. Derick wasn't playing games. He was setting the board. And Lisa, Saintess or not. She wasn't the queen. She was the prize. Who will reach Lisa's heart first, the shadow or the shield? Chapter 3, Whispers Beneath Holy Walls. The Holy Order was not just a place of prayer. It was a fortress, one carved from stone and silence, a bastion of ritual and reverence, lined with secrets that no scripture dared name. Lisa had always known this. From the moment she was chosen as chief saintess, she'd walked those stone corridors with quiet reverence and an uneasy awareness that not everything cloaked in holiness was pure. But lately, the walls felt closer. Too close. Like they were watching. Torches flickered oddly when she passed. Conversations fell to a hush the moment her footsteps echoed nearby. And the sacred relics, once warm and humming with divine energy, now sat quiet, still, as though holding their breath. Something was changing. And deep down, Lisa knew, it had everything to do with him. The demon with the velvet voice and eyes like fire. Derick. He'd whispered his name to her in the garden before vanishing into the wind. She had not dared speak it since. Because saying his name aloud would make it real. Lisa, Abbott's voice broke the morning stillness. He stood like a statue beside her, ever vigilant, as she sipped her tea. You've barely slept. You have circles under your eyes. I thought holy energy kept you from looking tired. It usually does, she muttered, staring into her cup. Did you dream about him again? She stiffened. I never said I dreamt about him. You grind your teeth when you're stressed, he said, utterly unfazed. And last night, you muttered something about eyes like embers. Then you kicked me. I told you to stop sleeping on the floor in my room. You also told me to guard you 24/7. I meant during the day. Abbott only smiled. I don't trust nighttime. Lisa groaned and set her tea down. I need air. She wandered again, alone, despite Abbott's protests, down the cathedral's oldest corridor. A path forgotten by most. It led to the archives, a place where dust ruled and ancient tomes slept, untouched for decades. She reached for the iron ring on the heavy oak door, and pulled. The scent hit her immediately. Old parchment, candle wax, and something darker. Ash. She stepped inside. The shelves loomed, packed with history, their edges curled by time. She lit a lantern, casting long, golden shadows across the room, and then she saw them. Footprints. Fresh. Her breath caught. She followed them, silent, until they led her to a reading pedestal. One book lay open. Its pages revealed a sigil she had never seen, concentric chaos, a sun corrupted. At the top, a name. Derick the Fallen Flame. Her heartbeat quickened as she read. Once a divine being who walked among angels, Derick turned from the light after witnessing the corruption of mortals. He did not fall by force, but by choice. He believed salvation lay not in purity, but in understanding desire. Lisa's stomach twisted. He hadn't always been a demon. He had been one of them. A divine. A flicker in the corner. She turned. He was there. Standing among the shelves, half-veiled in shadow. You're not supposed to be here, she said, her voice taut as a bowstring. I could say the same, Derick replied, stepping closer. You were an angel? She asked. His expression flickered, not with regret, but with something older. Sadder. Once. Why did you fall? I didn't fall, he said quietly. I walked away. From what? From a world that punished feeling. That demanded obedience over compassion. That saw love as weakness. You betrayed the light. No, he said. I chose the truth. Evil doesn't live in darkness alone. It lives in every heart, including yours, Lisa. She stepped back, clutching the relic at her waist. I've watched you, he said. You wear the light like a robe. But inside, you're tired. You're curious. And you're lonely. I'm not lonely, she snapped. But her voice wavered. Derick stepped closer. Then why do your prayers feel so empty? Lisa opened her mouth to protest, but nothing came. Because he was right. Lately, it had all felt like a performance. I don't want your lies, she whispered. I haven't lied to you once, he replied gently. It's everyone else who has. Something cracked. A dam inside her, silent, invisible, began to give. Why me? She asked, barely above a breath. Because you see both sides, he said. You understand demons. That makes you dangerous. Lisa turned her gaze away. I don't want to understand you. But you already do. A silence fell. Heavy. Electric. And then, his fingers brushed hers. She flinched, but didn't pull away. One heartbeat. Two. Then. Saintess? Abbott's voice echoed down the corridor. Lisa jumped. Derick vanished like smoke. Abbott appeared just as she turned from the pedestal, her breath shaky, her pulse racing. You okay? He asked. Lisa nodded. But her hands told another story. They trembled. Because Derick wasn't just a demon. He wasn't just a fallen angel. He was something far worse. He knew her. And now, dear listener, what would you do if the only person who truly saw you was the one you were sworn to destroy? Would you run, fight, or listen? Let us know in the comment section. Chapter 4, A Knight's Heart, a Saintess's Doubt. Lisa didn't sleep that night. She tried. Truly. She lit calming incense. Whispered old prayers. She even allowed Abbott, sleepy-eyed and wrapped in a blanket like a stubborn guard dog, to stand vigil by her door. But sleep refused her. Because every time she closed her eyes, she felt his touch. Derick's hand brushing hers. And what scared her most wasn't the act itself, it was her own inaction. She hadn't stopped him. As dawn cracked the sky, Lisa sat at the edge of her bed, watching pink and gold seep through her window like the world's softest lie. Because nothing was normal anymore. Later that morning. "Where are we going?" Abbott asked, a step behind her in the echoing cathedral hall. "To the Grand Chapel," Lisa replied. "I need to speak to Elder Morel." "About the demon?" She nodded. He raised an eyebrow. "You mean that dusty book you were reading when I found you looking like a startled bird?" Lisa shot him a glare. "Do not mock my startled bird face." Abbott smirked. "It's very expressive." They walked beneath the carved angels of the archway, their stone eyes once wise and gentle, now oddly accusing. The Grand Chapel shimmered with stained glass light. Elder Morel stood beneath it all, silver-bearded and wrapped in the solemn authority of the High Order. "Saintess," he greeted. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Lisa bowed. "I have questions. About a being named Derick." The moment the name left her lips, the room shifted. Not physically, but perceptibly. The air thickened. Morel's eyes sharpened. "Where did you hear that name?" "I found it in the restricted archives," she replied. "He's here. Inside the order." Abbott stepped forward. He's spoken to her. Touched her. Morel's reaction was slow, but deeply troubled. "That shouldn't be possible. There's a sacred barrier protecting these grounds." Lisa stiffened. "Barrier?" "The first saints created it," Morel said. "To keep evil out. If Derick passed through it, then either the seal is failing, or—" He hesitated. "He's not fully demon anymore." Abbott's voice sharpened. "You're saying he's becoming human?" Morel gave a grave nod. "It's possible. But to suppress his essence would take a sacrifice unlike any other." Lisa's thoughts raced. Why would he do that? Morel looked her dead in the eyes. "Because it's the only way he could get close to you." Back in her chambers, Lisa sat frozen at her desk. If Derick was giving up his nature, was it a manipulation? A trap? Or something deeper? Abbott stood near the window. "If I see him again, I'll kill him." "You'll try," Lisa muttered. He turned. "You don't think I can protect you?" "I think he's not like anything we've faced before." Abbott stepped closer, his voice softer. "Because you matter more than anything." Lisa's heart clenched. "Don't say that." "Why not?" he whispered. "You think I haven't seen it? The way you look after seeing him? You're changing, Lisa." She looked away. "Maybe I need to." There was silence, then a confession in his breath. "I won't let him take you. Not while I breathe." Because beneath all the layers, Abbott wasn't just her knight. He was a man in love. And she couldn't promise him a thing. That night, Lisa stood by the reflecting pool, moonlight on the water like spilled silver. The wind whispered through the trees. And then, he was there. "Derick. You went to the elder," he said without preamble. "Of course I did." "What did he say?" That you don't belong here. He smiled faintly. They've always said that. You're changing, she whispered. Becoming human. His eyes softened. That is, the cost. Why? Because it's the only way I can touch you, without burning you. Her breath hitched. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. She didn't move. I don't want to hurt you, he said. I want to know you. Then stop trying to seduce me. I'm not, he whispered. I'm trying to save you. Lisa stared at him. From what? His answer came like ice. From the lie you were born into. And now, dear listener, if everything Lisa was raised to believe is a lie, then what will she choose when truth wears the face of her enemy? Will she fight it, or follow it? What would you do? Let us know in the comment section. Chapter 5, The Lie in the Light. Lisa sat in silence long after Derick vanished into the night. His final words haunted her like a thread unraveling inside her mind. I'm trying to save you, from the lie you were born into. She had built her entire life on the foundation of the light, its teachings, its purity, its promise. But now? Now there were cracks in the marble. And the truth flickered like a distant star she couldn't unsee. The next day, Lisa did something she hadn't done since childhood. She returned to the Hall of Beginnings. Once a place of innocent learning, it now felt like a cathedral of forgotten questions. Scrolls lined the walls. Stained glass saints bathed the room in gold. They held swords above cowering demons. But when she looked again, really looked, the demons' faces didn't seem evil. They looked scared. Human. Lisa shook the thought away. No. That was Derick's voice inside her head. She needed clarity. Not corruption. She pulled an old scroll from the shelves. The parchment crackled softly as she unrolled it. The ancient script was faint but legible. The fallen flame, once of the divine court, was cast down not for cruelty, but for questioning. Her breath caught. She grabbed another scroll. When Tao was considered sin, Derick dared to ask, what of compassion for the impure? What of forgiveness beyond the light? Lisa froze. Had she been taught obedience, instead of truth? Later, she stood on her balcony, cold wind stinging her cheeks. Down below, Abbott trained fiercely, his blade fast, angry. She knew his heart. She also knew she was breaking it. When he came to her chamber, sweat still clinging to his brow, his voice was gentle but urgent. You're not telling me everything. No, she admitted. Is it because you don't trust me? It's because I don't trust myself, she whispered. And for once, Abbott didn't argue. He just stepped closer and took her hand. You're seeing the world the way it actually is. And she wanted to believe him. That night, Lisa dreamed. The great hall, twisted, upside down, bathed in red. Saints bled black tears. Stars fell and whispered secrets as they burned. Derick knelt at the altar. Choose, he said. Choose between truth and comfort. She awoke with a gasp. The next morning, she made her choice. She returned to Elder Morel, not as a student, but as a challenger. I've read the sealed texts, she said firmly. His eyes darkened. You were warned. Why are they hidden? Why are we told that doubt is sin, when Derick questioned for mercy? Because doubt leads to chaos, Morel snapped. We are guardians of purity. We must not waver. Lisa's voice shook, but did not break. Faith without questions, she said, is just control. A long silence followed. You're being influenced, Morel finally said. Maybe. Or maybe I'm waking up. Then, quietly, coldly, he delivered a threat, not a warning. If you continue down this path, we will be forced to question your purity. Lisa left in a haze. Her heart thudded like a war drum. Purity. Obedience. Silence. All her life, she thought she was serving something sacred. But maybe, she had been protecting a prison. That night, Derick waited for her, not in shadows, but in moonlight. Seated beside the reflecting pool like a man with nothing left to hide. "They're going to turn on me," Lisa said. "I know. They think you've poisoned me." Derick looked at her, soft and unflinching. "Have I?" She hesitated. "You've made me ask questions I never dared to before. Then I've done what I came to do." "You're leaving?" she asked. He stood. "No. I'm asking you to come with me." Her breath caught. "Where?" "To the border," he said. "To where light and shadow meet. You need to see what exists outside the holy walls." She turned, staring back at the glowing towers. Then, she turned back to him. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid. "Now, listener. If stepping into truth means losing everything you've ever known, would you take that first step? Would you dare to follow the one you were taught to fear, just to find out who you really are?" Chapter 6, The Road Beyond the Walls. Lisa didn't pack much. A cloak. A small pouch of healing herbs. And her prayer beads, not because she still clung to belief, but because they were hers. A piece of who she used to be. She left the Saintess robe behind. It no longer felt like her skin. It felt like a mask. When she stepped out into the corridor, Abbott wasn't there. For the first time, his absence greeted her instead of his silent watch. And that scared her more than all the shadows in the world. Because Abbott was always there. Always protecting. Always present. Now, gone. Her chest ached. She moved swiftly through the cathedral's dim halls. Moonlight, pale and slivered, guided her to the east garden. Derick was waiting beneath tall cypress trees, no longer cloaked in menace or majesty, just black robes, plain and unthreatening. "You're late," he murmured. "I had to say goodbye," she said softly. "To your night?" She didn't answer. She didn't have to. He nodded, as if he understood without needing the words. "We have to move. Patrols shift before dawn." Through a hidden gate behind the ivy-draped garden wall, they slipped beyond the sacred grounds. Lisa had never known this passage existed. A servant's gate, long forgotten. A secret path out of the only world she had ever known. Cold air met her like a slap. And just like that, she was outside. Free. Terrified. The forest beyond the cathedral grounds was no curated garden. It was wild. Untamed. Branches like claws. The wind whispering names she didn't know. Derick led the way along a narrow trail, barely visible beneath leaf and shadow. "We'll reach the ridge by sunrise," he said. "Then you'll see the valley. Not just what the order lets you see." "Is that why I'm here?" she asked. "So you can show me your truth?" He didn't stop. "I don't need you to believe my truth. I need you to understand there's more than one." They reached the ridge just as the horizon broke into gold. Lisa gasped. Before her stretched a world she had never imagined, rolling hills, sprawling woods, rivers glinting in morning light. And far in the distance, the smoke of life, villages she was told did not exist. "They said nothing was beyond the Holy Lands," she whispered. "They lied," Derick said. "Why?" He looked at her. "Because people don't rebel when they think there's nowhere else to go." She turned back to the valley, breathless. "So much I didn't know." Derick stepped closer. Brushed her hair behind her ear. She flinched. "Don't do that," she whispered. "Why not?" "Because it makes me forget who you are." He smiled, faint and hollow. "And who am I, Lisa?" "You're the enemy," she said. The one I was trained to fight. His laugh was low. Bitter. And yet here we are. That night, they camped beneath ancient trees. Derick's fire flickered red, not gold. Magic, old and strange, pulsed faintly in the flames. "You're still using it," she said. "Enough to keep us alive," he replied. "Enough to protect you." She studied him in the firelight. Was it hard? Giving it up? Becoming this? Derick stared into the flames. It was like losing pieces of myself. One by one. A pause. But there was something I wanted more than power. She didn't ask what that was. She already knew. Sometime after midnight, Lisa woke to rustling. Footsteps. Not Derick. She reached for a fallen branch, heart racing. Then, "Lisa?" A voice. Familiar. His voice. Abbott stepped into the clearing, sword drawn, moonlight catching on steel and fury. 3 order knights behind him. Their faces grim. Eyes cold. "No," she breathed. "How did you find me? You think I'd let you go into the wild with him?" Abbott's voice was a blade, tight and trembling. Derick rose slowly, hands raised. "I haven't harmed her." Abbott didn't care. "Step away from her." Lisa stepped between them. "Don't. Please." Abbott's eyes burned with betrayal. "You left without a word. You chose him." "I didn't choose anyone," she said, voice raw. "I chose to see." "Did you find your truth?" he asked, bitter. "No," Lisa whispered. "But I found questions. And right now, that's more honest than all the lies I was taught." One of the knights stepped forward. "She's tainted. He's touched her." Derick growled. The earth quivered. Lisa turned sharply. "Don't." He met her eyes, and stopped. Then Abbott did something she didn't expect. He sheathed his sword. "I'm not taking you back," he said. "But I'm staying. If you're going to be reckless, someone has to watch your back." "You'd stay?" she asked. "I'd follow you to the gates of hell," he said. Lisa blinked away tears. Derick muttered, "A knight, a saintess, and a half-human demon. What a merry little rebellion we are." They sat in uneasy silence around the fire that night. 3 souls. 3 paths. One impossible road ahead. Lisa didn't know where it would lead. Or who she would become. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid to find out. "Now tell me this. When torn between the love that protected you, and the truth that awakens you, which would you trust to lead you forward?" Chapter 7, Ashes of Allegiance. The fire had long since burned to ash, but the silence it left behind still smoldered. Lisa sat between Abbott and Derick, wrapped in stillness. No words. No peace. Just the quiet crackle of tension and the weight of unspoken things. They didn't ask the question. But it was there. Who would she choose? Lisa didn't have the answer. Not yet. At dawn, they left the shelter of the woods and began the slow descent into the valley. They moved through thick trees and shallow streams, guided by Derick's memory and instinct. He led them toward a place he called neutral ground, a hidden settlement untouched by order or demonkind. A place that, if it existed at all, belonged only to itself. As they approached, Lisa began to see something that both unsettled and soothed her. Life. Real, raw life. Children ran barefoot through the dust, laughing without fear. Old women strung herbs across doorways. A man sold fish from a weathered barrel, humming a tune she didn't recognize. And none of them recoiled at the sight of Derick. None fled. None knelt. They simply lived. Why aren't they afraid? Lisa asked, watching a girl offer a flower to a demon-marked boy. Derick's voice was soft. Because here, they've seen both sides. And they've learned, fear is a tool. Not a truth. Abbott scoffed under his breath. Or maybe they've just forgotten who the real enemy is. Lisa didn't flinch. Or maybe we were never told the truth about who the enemy was. Abbott said nothing after that. The town's elder, a woman named Mara, met them near the well. Her hair was silver, her eyes sharp enough to slice through pretense. "You brought the Saintess and a knight," she said to Derick. "Are you here to start a war, or end one?" Derick managed a tired smile. "Neither. I'm here to stop something worse." Lisa stepped forward. "I came to learn. And maybe to unlearn what I thought was true." Mara studied her, quiet as stone. Then nodded. "Then you're braver than most," she said. "And let them stay." That night, Mara led Lisa to the village's temple. It wasn't grand, just stone and wood and flickering candlelight. But what it held inside made Lisa's breath catch. Paintings. Not of saints or holy martyrs. But of humans and demons. Weeping together. Breaking bread. Holding hands. One mural showed a demon cradling a bleeding child. Below it, a caption, "All suffering deserves mercy." Abbott stood beside her. "This is blasphemy." Mara's voice cut the air like flint. "Only if your God has a fragile ego." Lisa stared at the mural, words slipping from her lips in a whisper. "All suffering deserves mercy." Mara placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "The order fears anything it cannot control. Even love." Lisa flinched, because she thought of Derick. And of how he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching. Later, unable to sleep, Lisa stepped out into the moonlit field behind the inn. There, beneath the stars, sat Derick. Alone. Still. Waiting. "You okay?" she asked. "I don't sleep much," he murmured. "Not since I gave up what I was." She sat beside him, the space between them charged and fragile. "I saw the murals," she said. "They made me feel." "Guilty?" he asked. She shook her head. "Hopeful." "Which is worse?" "Because it makes me want to believe in something again." Derick turned to her, his eyes quiet fire. "Then believe in yourself." Lisa looked up at the stars. "I was taught that was selfish." "No," he said gently. "It's survival." And then, he reached for her hand. And this time, she didn't pull away. But someone saw. Abbott. He didn't speak when she returned, cheeks flushed and breath unsteady. But his clenched jaw, his eyes, full of something between heartbreak and fury. They said enough. Still, he didn't confront her. Not yet. The next morning, the sky bled red. Smoke curled like warning from the trees beyond the ridge. And the screams, distant but unmistakable, pierced the dawn. Mara burst through the inn's doors. "The order," she gasped. "They've found us." Derick's eyes lit with fury. "They shouldn't have known." Lisa turned to Abbott, eyes wide. "Did you?" "I didn't tell them," he snapped. "I swear, I wouldn't." But it didn't matter anymore. Because the attack had already begun. Narration ends, voice sharpened slightly, now pulling the listener closer. Now you have to wonder. When war finds you even in peace. Who do you stand beside when the fire returns? Chapter 8, The Price of Peace. The first explosion shattered the morning stillness. Flames roared into the sky, licking the heavens like a warning. Screams followed, sharp, human, and far too real. Children clung to mothers. Men stumbled for rusted blades. And in the haze of smoke and panic, a few stood tall at the village edge. Shaky. Outnumbered. But willing. Lisa barely caught her breath before Abbott yanked her back. "Get to the center hall," he shouted. "It's stone, you'll be safer there." But Lisa dug her heels in. "I'm not hiding. These people protected me." Another explosion ripped through the inn. Glass. Fire. Chaos. She hit the ground hard, ears ringing, skin burning. And when she looked up, Derick was already moving. His hands glowed faintly, too faint to be holy, too bright to be safe. He turned to her, eyes like molten coals. "I tried to stay human for you. But I won't let them burn this place." "Derick, no." He raised his hand. The earth split. A jagged crevasse tore through the path, devouring a dozen armored knights in a cloud of dust and thunder. Abbott appeared beside her, sword in hand, face pale. "He's losing control." Lisa stared, frozen between fear and awe. "No," she whispered. "He's protecting us." Abbott's voice cracked. "And what if he doesn't stop?" Inside the temple, fear thickened the air. Mara stood before the villagers, spine straight despite the tremble in her voice. "They came for the Saintess," she said. "Not us. If we give her to them, they might leave." The crowd stirred, restless. A mother held her child too tightly. A man near the door clenched his jaw but didn't speak. Lisa stepped forward. "No," she said. "If you give me up, they'll destroy this place anyway. They want to erase the proof of what you've built." A small girl looked up, eyes wide. "Are we going to die?" Lisa knelt. Her voice was steady. "Not today. I promise." She rose, turning to face them all. "We make a stand. Together." Beyond the walls, the order gathered. Their banner, a white sword piercing a sunburst, rose above the tree line. And at the front, mounted and still, stood High Inquisitor Caldas. Lisa's blood turned cold. He was the man who once crowned her. Called her the Light's Chosen. Now, fire blazed in his eyes. "Return the Saintess," he bellowed, "or we burn it all." Derick stepped forward, dark energy crackling beneath his skin. "Come and try." Caldas sneered. "You stink of corruption, beast." "I stink of truth," Derick snapped. "And you fear it." Caldas raised his staff. Lightning cracked the sky in two. The first wave charged, swords gleaming, shields high. Derick met them with a blast of darkness, sending armored knights tumbling like dolls. Abbott fought at his side, every movement a lesson in discipline and fury. His blade gleamed like salvation. And Lisa fought too. Not with fire. But with purpose. She ran between homes, guiding villagers to safety, pulling the wounded from rubble, binding cuts with torn fabric and bloodied hands. Every second stretched like a prayer. Then. A horn. Deep. Low. Wrong. Derick froze. No. From the western trees, they came. Rogue demons. Not bound by any truce. Not sent. Not summoned. Drawn by blood and war. Lisa's heart stopped. "They followed you," she whispered. "I didn't summon them," Derick growled. "They don't care," Abbott said grimly. "They'll kill everyone." Chaos erupted. The order turned its blades on the demons. The demons struck at both sides. The village burned at both ends. Lisa grabbed Derick's arm, voice desperate. "We have to get the people out. There's no time." "Then make time." Derick roared. Darkness exploded outward, a ripple of force that knocked soldiers and demons alike to their knees. The battlefield froze, just for a heartbeat. "Geo!" he shouted. The villagers ran. Through the trees. Toward the cliffs. Clutching the wounded, the crying, the helpless. Lisa ran with them. face smudged with ash. Cloak torn. Heartbreaking. She looked back once. And saw Derick. A devil in the firelight. A guardian in the smoke. Fighting for them. Becoming everything the Order feared. By nightfall, the survivors reached the cavern. Mara lit a single torch. Its flame trembled like her hands. Lisa fell to her knees, strength gone. Abbott knelt beside her. You did what you had to. Tears slid down her cheeks. We lost so much. But we saved more. She turned to him, eyes glassy. And Derick? Silence. Then. A whisper from the dark. Still here. Lisa turned. He stood in the cave's mouth, bleeding, burned, alive. She ran to him. He fell into her arms. And there, surrounded by ash and ruin, something took root. Not faith. Not fear. But something dangerously close. To love. So now the question becomes. When love rises from the ashes of war, how long can it survive the fire still coming? Chapter 9, Between Fire and Flesh. The cavern was cold. Not from the weather, but from what they had just fled. The air, thick with the stench of smoke, whetstone, and old blood, weighed heavily on Lisa's chest. Children huddled in the shadows, their whimpers soft and broken. The wounded moaned, some too weak to move, others too lost in pain to speak. In the flickering torchlight, every face seemed drawn, haunted. Lisa sat beside Derick, cradling his head in her lap. His shirt was torn, exposing a wound that pulsed with a faint red light. Not a human wound. A demonic one. She pressed a damp cloth to it, her hands trembling, but the blood kept seeping, never slowing. I can't stop it, she whispered, panic rising in her throat. Derick's eyes fluttered open. He blinked, focusing on her with effort. You shouldn't have followed me. Lisa's voice broke as she blinked back tears. I didn't. You came back to me. He smiled weakly, his lips barely curling. Maybe I'm the foolish one then. Abbott stood off in the shadows, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. He had not spoken since they entered the cavern. Lisa could feel his gaze, though, heavy like a storm cloud, no longer filled with anger. But something else, heartbreak. Later, after the villagers had fallen into exhausted slumber, Lisa wandered alone along the cavern's edge, the torchlight flickering weakly. She felt hollow, a candle burned at both ends, lightly flickering, yet nearly spent. Mara approached, leaning heavily on a staff. Her eyes, wise with age, studied Lisa for a long moment before she spoke. You look like a woman caught between two storms, Mara said softly. Lisa's gaze met hers. Because I am. Mara nodded, a sad understanding settling in her expression. You can't love a demon and serve the light. They've made sure of that. Lisa's voice trembled as she whispered, but what if the light never wanted my love in the first place? What if it only wanted obedience? Mara's lips curved into a slow, rueful smile. Then it's time to find a new light. Lisa's torch flickered. But deep inside her chest, something shifted. A spark of something new, something dangerous, and maybe, just maybe, something free. The next morning, Derick could stand, but barely. He leaned against a stone wall, watching Lisa as she tended to the children. Her movements were gentle, purposeful, wrapping bandages, handing out bread, offering smiles she didn't feel. She didn't see herself the way he did. Powerful. Compassionate. A force greater than any spell or sword. I should have died, he said softly as she approached. Lisa frowned. Don't say that. But it's true, he replied. Your night wouldn't be so torn. You wouldn't be so conflicted. She placed a hand on his cheek, feeling the roughness of his skin beneath her fingers. Derick. I am torn. But not because I don't feel something for you. He leaned closer, desperation in his voice. Then what is it? She pulled away, her voice barely a whisper. Because I do. That night, everything changed. Lisa awoke to the sound of whispers echoing through the cavern, soft and beckoning. Half asleep, half lost, she followed them, her feet moving of their own accord. They led her through the shadows until she found herself standing at the entrance to a narrow crevice in the back wall. She squeezed through it, the tight space closing in around her, but then, she stepped out into a room bathed in light. An underground chapel. The glow came not from candles but from ancient runes etched across the ceiling, their blue light pulsing, alive with power. In the center of the room stood a statue, a woman, not of the light, but of something else. A forgotten goddess. Her hands were open. Her eyes blindfolded. Justice. The goddess the order had erased. Lisa stepped forward, her breath caught in her throat. This was no coincidence. This wasn't happenstance. It was calling. Her prayer bead slipped from her fingers as she knelt, not to beg, not to serve, but to listen. In that moment, Lisa felt something she hadn't in a long time. Peace. The next day, Derick found her still in the chapel, her fingers brushing against the statue. What is this place? He asked quietly. A reminder, Lisa replied, her voice soft but sure. That truth doesn't belong to one faith. And neither do I. He stepped closer, his eyes searching hers. Then who do you belong to? Lisa looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with something ancient, something raw. No one. Not anymore. But when he kissed her, she didn't pull away. She didn't run. And when his hands found her waist, when her fingers tangled in his dark hair, when her breath hitched against his lips, there was no order. No holy vow. No night. No demon. Just them. Fire and flesh. Abbott saw her leave the chapel that night. Her cloak was disheveled. Her lips were red. He turned away before she saw him, clenching his fists, his jaw tight with barely contained emotion. And he whispered to himself, so that's your choice. But Lisa's choice wasn't over. Not yet. Because the next morning, a scout stumbled into the cavern, bloodied and breathless, his body shaking with exhaustion. The order, they've sent the archons, the scout gasped. Lisa's heart dropped. The holy executioners? The scout nodded, his eyes wide with fear. They're days away. Abbott drew his sword with a sharp, metallic sound. Derick stepped forward, his expression darkening. Lisa stood between them, her voice steady and unyielding. Then we fight not to win. She turned to face them both. But to change everything. Now tell me. What happens when the fight to change everything becomes the fight for everything you love? Chapter 10, The Archons Are Coming. The name alone made the air feel colder. The Archons. Whispers of them had stalked the corners of Lisa's childhood, hidden behind the chants of priests and the flicker of torchlight in temple halls. She had been 12 when she first heard the stories, tales of masked warriors who moved like shadows, who bled holy fire, and answered only to the voice of the order. They were more than soldiers. They were judgment made flesh. They were coming for her. Lisa stood at the heart of a wind-bitten cavern, her cloak twisting in the draft like a flag at war. Around her, silence reigned. Derick stood with arms folded, jaw set like stone. Abbott leaned into shadow, gaze heavy on the ground, refusing her eyes. You knew this would happen, Abbott said at last, voice sharp and low. The moment you let him live. Lisa didn't flinch. He saved lives. That's more than the order's done lately. Derick smirked without warmth. Glad to be useful. But Abbott wasn't listening. We can't fight the Archons, Lisa. We don't have the numbers. Or the training. Or. I know what they are, she said, cutting through his fear. And I know this, running won't save us. Hiding won't stop them. The only way out, she paused, gaze sweeping the darkness ahead, is through. A hush fell. Then came the tap of a cane. Mara stepped forward from the shadows, her voice aged but unshaken. She's right, said the old woman. We fight. Or we die cowering. But if we go down, let the world remember who we were. Free people, someone murmured from the gloom. Not pawns, echoed another. Derick's eyes locked with Lisa's. You've started something. Lisa gave a solemn nod. Then we finish it. The cavern transformed overnight. Spears carved from scavenged timber, walls of stone barricading the narrow tunnels, old swords drawn from dust and sharpened once more. Even the children joined the cause, knots, water, bandages. Every hand mattered. Lisa trained with the villagers by day, drilling them in defense and movement. Derick taught the tactics of demons, surprise, misdirection, terrain. He moved like bottled lightning. Precise. Relentless. Abbott said little. But he fought harder than all of them, his silence louder than steel clashing. Lisa let him be. She had no time for apologies. No strength left for healing what might not mend. Still, it hurt. One night, she found Derick on the cliff ledge, where the forest glowed pale under the moon. Scouts say the Archons will be here in 2 days, she said. I know. You don't have to stay. I do. Why? He turned. Eyes red, but clear. Because I want to fight for something real. Not conquest. Not fear. You. He stepped closer, slow and sure. I know you don't belong to anyone. But if I die, I want it to be for your cause. Not theirs. Lisa reached up, laid a hand on his chest, over the steady beat of a heart that once belonged to a monster. Don't die. His forehead touched hers. Then you'd better stay close. The next day, Abbott came. I'll stand with you, he said. Quiet. Earnest. Even if I don't agree with everything you've done. Lisa blinked. You don't hate me? I hate that you didn't tell me sooner. He offered a sad smile. But I never hated you. She reached for his hand. You've always protected me. I still will. From his cloak, he drew a pendant, her old sigil. The mark of the chief Saintess. I kept it, he said. In case you forgot who you are. She took it with trembling fingers, and placed it around her neck. That night, the scouts returned. The Archons will be here by dawn, they said. And they're not alone. Lisa's breath stilled. Who else? War priests. Battle seraphs. And, the scout hesitated. The voice. Her heart turned to stone. The voice. The one who had trained her. The one who spoke with the divine, or so he claimed. The one who condemned her the moment she loved something the order had taught her to hate. Dawn came. The villagers gathered. Silent. Shaking. But unyielding. Lisa stepped forward, clad in white and silver. Armor chipped, but worn with pride. With purpose. You don't have to be warriors to stand for yourselves, she said, voice ringing from stone to soul. You only have to remember what you're fighting for. Murmurs rose. For freedom. For truth. For love. She turned to face the darkness, sword raised. Let them come. And from the depths of the tunnels, boots thundered. Drums roared. And holy fire painted the walls with war. The Archons had come. And the world was about to change. A quick question for you listeners. If you were in Lisa's place, outnumbered, hunted, and branded a heretic, would you fight for what you believe, or run to live another day? Chapter 11, The Voice of Judgment. The sound of footsteps filled the stone passage like a heartbeat. Thud. 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 Lisa tightened her grip on the sword, the hilt slick with sweat though the air was cold. Behind her, the villagers stood shoulder to shoulder, a trembling wall of courage. Makeshift weapons were clenched in shaking hands, pitchforks, carving knives, tools turned to blades. They weren't warriors. Not before tonight. But now, they were something else. To her left, Derick's arms glowed faintly, barely containing the infernal power that coiled just beneath his skin. And to her right, Abbott stood silent as stone, face unreadable, every breath taut with readiness. Then, they appeared. The Archons. Draped in black and silver, they moved as one, faceless behind mirrored masks, like death dressed in ritual. Their swords, long, thin, and humming with layered enchantments, hung across their backs, waiting to be drawn. Behind them marched the war priests. Their chants echoed like a dirge, curling the air into sacred fire, their voices binding magic into every breath. And then, him. The voice of the order. He stepped into the cavern, radiant in blinding white robes, each movement calculated, divine, unbearable. His eyes, ice carved into flesh, locked on Lisa the instant he entered, as though she had never stopped existing under his gaze. "Well," he said, voice calm, rich, and oppressive. "I see the rumors were true." Lisa didn't retreat. "You came all this way. Why not see them for yourself?" His eyes shifted to Derick. "A demon, in human skin. To protect the people you abandoned," she fired back. "And yet it is you they chant for," he said, almost pitying. "You, who were chosen." His voice darkened, slicing through the air. "Chosen to lead. Not to fall." "I didn't fall," Lisa said, stepping forward. "I opened my eyes." Lightning cracked at her feet, a warning from an Archon. Derick snarled. "Try that again, and I'll—" "Derick." Lisa's voice was iron. "We do this my way." The voice raised a finger. And hell descended. The Archons launched into motion, too fast, too silent. Blades gleamed, spells ripped through the dark like comets. But Lisa had trained them. Prepared them. The villagers used the narrow passageways to their advantage. They struck from angles, retreated to choke points, fought with desperation and precision. Abbott took on 2 Archons at once. He bled, but he didn't yield. His strikes were brutal, his resolve unshakable. Derick unleashed his fire. No longer holding back. The illusion of humanity burned away, revealing wings, horns, flame, a force of nature unchained. Each blast threw armored warriors across the cavern. And Lisa. Lisa danced through the storm. Her blade was a blur. Her robes were torn, her body cut, but her heart was still. She was no longer a saintess in prayer. She was a leader in war. A rebel queen in a sanctuary of fire. Through it all, the voice did not move. Not until she reached him. Her sword came down, he caught it with one hand. Effortless. "You think this ends with you winning?" he whispered. "You think you're rewriting the world?" "I'm rewriting mine," she growled. He smiled. And struck her with light. The blast hurled her backward, crashing against the stone. Her breath tore from her lungs. Stars danced in her vision. Derick roared. He transformed, fully, finally. No more illusions. A demon in truth. He charged, wings blazing, flame streaming. But the voice stood in his shield of radiance, untouched. Derick's fire shattered against it, and was hurled back. He smashed into the cavern wall with a bone-shattering crack. Lisa crawled, dragging herself forward. "No, please." The voice raised his staff. And then. Steel pierced his side. "Abbott." The voice gasped, blood-darkening white robes. Lisa surged up and drove her sword into his chest. Time stopped. The chant ceased. The fire dimmed. The Archons faltered. And the voice of the order fell. He collapsed at Lisa's feet, a god slain by his own creation. The cavern was silent but for the crackle of dying spells. The villagers stood frozen, weapons lowered. The war priest stopped chanting. The archons stepped back. It was over. Lisa stood amidst the wreckage, blood drying on her skin. Her fingers trembled. Her heart pounded. She had killed the man who made her a saint. And in that moment, she felt free. But freedom has a cost. And this war was far from over. She won the battle, but what happens when the enemy becomes uncertain? The world sees her as a killer instead of a savior, and the true war begins within? When the cost of freedom reveals itself, will Lisa still believe it was worth the price? Chapter 12, Ashes of the Order. The body of the voice lay still. No divine flare. No whispered warning from above. Just blood, dark, slow, and final, seeping into the stone, filling the cracks of a world that once believed itself untouchable. Lisa stood motionless. Sword still in hand, breath shallow. The weight of what she had done, what she had become, settled over her like a funeral shroud. All around, the battle's aftermath had gone quiet. No screams. No war cries. Only silence. Heavy. Unfamiliar. Derick limped to her side, his form flickering, half demon, half man, his body still trembling with spent power. He reached for her hand. "You're trembling." Lisa stared at the voice's body, then down at her blood-stained blade. "I just killed the man who raised me." Derick's grip tightened gently around hers. "And saved everyone else." Behind them, Abbott wiped his blade clean before sliding it home with a deliberate clink. Lisa turned. Her voice broke as she spoke. "You stabbed him." Abbott gave her a weary smile, one lined with pain, and something softer. "Couldn't let him kill my Saintess." Lisa's eyes fell. "I'm not really that anymore." "To them?" Abbott motioned to the stunned war priests and surrendered archons. "Maybe not. But to me? You never stopped." Time stretched. Hours became days in feeling. The villagers buried their dead in solemn silence, digging graves near the warm spring behind the caves. Bandages were tied, wounds mended. Children wept quietly beside tired parents. And the archons who remained, few, shaken, and newly uncertain, sheathed their swords and awaited her command. Not from faith. Not from fear. But from something older. Respect. Because the order was no longer sacred. It was mortal. And anything mortal can bleed. That evening, the sun melted behind the treetops, painting the sky in soft gold. Lisa stood at the mouth of the cave, the wind catching her hair. Mara approached, cane clicking against stone. "I remember when you were just a girl," she said, her voice rough with memory. "Afraid of the dark." "I still am," Lisa said. The words were honest. "Bare." Mara smiled. "Then you've done something braver than most." She pointed her cane toward the horizon. "You walked into it anyway." Lisa's fingers traced the jagged edge of her damaged sword. "What happens now?" "That depends," Mara replied. "Are you still fighting for the light?" Silence. Then Lisa said, "I'm fighting for truth. Whatever form it takes." Mara nodded, as though she'd been waiting for that answer all along. "Then you're still a saintess." "Just not theirs." Sleep didn't come. So Lisa walked. Through the darkened camp, past resting bodies and burned-out torches, her feet took her to a place she'd long avoided, the hidden chapel beneath the rocks. The forgotten one. The true one. She stood before the blindfolded statue of the old goddess, Justice incarnate. "Justice," she whispered. "You saw everything, didn't you?" No voice replied. But something stirred within her, a quiet peace, like the first light before dawn. Lisa lifted the prayer beads from her neck and knelt, placing them at the statue's feet. Not in worship, but in farewell. I'm not yours anymore, she said softly. But I'll never forget. When she turned to leave, Derick was already waiting. I thought you'd gone, Lisa said, surprised. I thought about it, he admitted. But something kept me here. She stepped closer. What? He reached out, brushing his thumb along her cheek. You. Their kiss was slow. No more hesitation. No more barriers. Only truth. Only fire. Only them. Later, lying beside each other beneath the old chapel's worn roof, Derick whispered into her hair. They'll come again, you know. Lisa nodded against his chest. Then we'll be ready. Morning broke on a world that had shifted overnight. Lisa climbed the highest stone above the caves. The wind lifted her hair, carrying it toward a horizon where villages still lived in chains. Cities still bowed to false gods. People still waited, unaware of the storm that had already begun. Behind her stood Abbott, Derick, Mara, and the villagers, no longer just survivors. Now, they were a movement. A spark lit in the dark. What now? Someone asked. Lisa lifted her battered sword, the blade catching the first light of dawn. Now, she said. We start walking. The fight was not over. But Lisa wasn't just fighting anymore. She was leading. Now that the voice is dead and the order has cracked, can Lisa unite the broken world behind her cause, or will new enemies rise from the very freedom she's begun to create? When power shifts hands, what rises to take its place? Chapter 13, A Crown of Thorns. 2 weeks. That's all it took for the world to shift. Not with the thunder of armies or the decrees of kings. But with whispers. With names. With truth. The voice is dead. The Saintess killed him. The demon lives. The rebellion has begun. Lisa hadn't asked for the title. She hadn't sought the chants that now echoed across hillsides, or the pilgrims who trudged through forest and ruin just to glimpse her face. But they came, by the dozens, then the hundreds. Farmers, banished priests, scarred warriors, children with nothing left but hope. They gathered beneath the cliffs of the hidden valley, drawn not to a crown, but to a girl who had said no to power. Every morning, they looked to her. And every night, she asked herself if she deserved it. Too many people, Abbott muttered. His eyes scanned the swelling camp from the overlook. Too many mouths. Too many risks. Lisa stood beside him, arms crossed, wind tousling her hair as she watched new arrivals being welcomed with bowls of stew and threadbare blankets. They're scared. Lost. We can't turn them away. Abbott's jaw worked. And when the order comes again? Lisa's voice was calm. Then we give them something worth fighting for. He turned to her, sharp. You're not a general, Lisa. I never wanted to be. Then why are you acting like one? She met his eyes, steady. Because no one else will. The silence between them stretched, long, taut, final. And then, with a voice low and grim, Abbott said, You're going to die for this. Lisa nodded. Maybe. But not today. In the training yards below, Derick was no longer hiding. Gone was the glamour, the illusion of humanity. Horns glinted in the sun, fire licked his fingertips, and his presence, unmasked and unashamed, drew awe, not fear. Even the children adored him, tossing imaginary fireballs and giggling as they dubbed him the demon hero. Lisa approached him between drills. You've become popular, she said, eyebrow arched. Derick grinned. I'm adorable. She laughed, light and real. Careful. That's dangerous talk from a demon. His smile faded into something softer. I'm not just a demon anymore. From a small pouch at his side, he pulled something dark and twisted, a ring shaped like blackened vines. "I've had this a long time," he said. "Thought I'd die wearing it alone." Lisa stared. Her breath caught. "You want me to?" "Wear it," he said. "Not as a chain. As a choice." She didn't hesitate. The ring slid onto her finger, warm, pulsing like a second heartbeat. Alive. And in that quiet moment, a vow passed between them without a single word. "Whatever comes, we face it together. But peace never lasts." That night, a scout arrived at full gallop, breathless, blood on her cloak. "For battalions," she gasped. "Marching under High Lord Josiah. He's broken from the order. He claims dominion now." Lisa felt the chill crawl up her spine. Josiah. The last of the 3 thrones. A man of faith forged in cruelty. Not a tyrant who ruled by fear. A zealot who believed. Abbott cursed. "He won't come to negotiate." Lisa nodded grimly. "He'll come to burn us." The council gathered beneath torchlight. Stone walls closed in around them as maps were unfurled, voices raised, and doubts crept in like shadows. "He'll surround the valley in 3 days," Mara warned. "We can't outrun him." Lisa looked around the room, her people. Her chosen. "Then we don't run." Abbott slammed his hand on the table. "That's suicide. They outnumber us 20 to 1. Lisa stood. Straightened. And when she spoke, the room fell silent. "I know what it's like to feel small," she said. "To think your voice doesn't matter. I know what it's like to obey out of fear." She stepped forward. "But not anymore. We are not the broken. We are not the lost. We are the ones who woke up. And if we die, let us die standing." The room roared. Abbott shook his head, but even he couldn't hide the flicker of respect in his eyes. Derick grinned beside her. "There's my Saintess." That night, Lisa stood alone in her tent. The map of the valley lay before her, inked with danger. Her finger traced the narrow gorge where Josiah's forces would strike first. She didn't tremble. She didn't pray. She felt peace. Because tomorrow, she would not rise as the church's weapon. Not as a girl taught to kneel. Not even as the Saintess of old. But as a spark. One that would burn down everything they once called holy. As Josiah's armies march and the valley prepares to stand its ground, will Lisa's spark ignite a revolution, or be extinguished before the first battle cry is ever heard? When faith becomes war, who decides what's worth dying for? Chapter 14, The Battle Beneath the Cross. Dawn broke blood red. The valley exhaled a breath it didn't know it was holding, thick fog clinging low, heavy, like the pause before a scream. From the cliffs beyond the eastern rise came the shimmer of 1,000 blades, catching morning light like broken mirrors. An ocean of steel was coming, cresting beneath a cracked banner of gold, the mark of High Lord Josiah. Lisa stood on the rough-hewn wall above the valley, the wind tugging at her coat, the cold biting against her skin. Her sword lay across her back, heavy with purpose. And on her finger, the black ring pulsed warm, a heartbeat of its own. Below her, the people waited. Some with swords. Others with nothing but slings and desperate eyes. They were farmers, orphans, healers. Some had seen war before. Most had not. But all of them looked to her. Because she was the one who had dared to say no. Abbott joined her with the weight of reality in his voice. 5 minutes, he said, helmet tucked beneath his arm. Archers ready. Demolition line set. Lisa didn't ask for reassurance. She asked for the truth. Casualties? He was silent. That was answer enough. Derick appeared behind her, part man, part myth. His horns curved back like polished obsidian, his crimson eyes calm and fierce all at once. He didn't need to speak. He simply took her hand, kissed her knuckles, and reminded her that love could still exist at the edge of war. Then came Josiah. A lone rider splitting through the ranks like a dagger. His cape was ash-stained, his armor etched in scripture and smoke. He reined in below the wall and looked up with eyes like cold fire. "Saintess," he called, voice smooth as carved stone. "You don't belong here." Lisa stared down at him, unflinching. "You're right," she said. "I don't belong to you." Josiah's smile was thin as a blade. "You could have ruled beside us. Been a legend. I'd rather die with truth than live your lie." He raised his hand. And the army surged forward. War crashed upon the valley like a tide. Arrows filled the air like rain. The first ranks hit the traps, rockslides and firebombs bursting into the fog, tearing into silver lines. But still they came. Unyielding. Relentless. Lisa led the charge. Her sword met steel in a dance that felt older than time. Blood sprayed. Blades clashed. She moved not as a saint, but as a storm, each strike a defiance, each wound a promise, "I am still alive." Beside her, Abbott carved a path of quiet fury. Derick was chaos itself, flames spiraling from his palms, his roars shaking the very cliffs. The enemy hesitated in his wake, but fear alone would not stop them. Then, amid the madness, Josiah. Their blades met in the center of the battlefield, two forces bound by history, by faith, by ruin. "You've betrayed your kind," Josiah roared. Lisa's blade caught his, grinding steel against steel. "I chose truth." Josiah's fury ignited. "The order is salvation." "No. It's fear, dressed in gold." He struck hard. Lisa staggered. Derick was running to her, but too far. Josiah raised his blade for the killing blow. But Lisa did not cower. She raised her voice, clear and final. "I'm not a saint." She drove her sword into his heart. "I'm the beginning." Josiah gasped. The golden cross on his chest split, then shattered. And everything stopped. The enemy faltered. Some dropped their swords. Others fell to their knees, eyes wet with something deeper than grief. They had not seen their God fall. They had seen the truth rise. Hours passed. The valley was quiet again, wounded tended, dead honored, names whispered like prayers into the wind. Lisa stood on the wall once more, watching the sunset paint the world in gold and ash. Abbott approached, a black eye blooming across his face and a smile tugging at his mouth. "You're still alive." Lisa exhaled. "For now." Derick wrapped an arm around her waist, warmth grounding her in the chill. "They'll sing about this, you know." Lisa leaned against him. "Let them. We've still got work to do." Because the battle was over. But peace was a seed. And the world, still broken, was waiting to grow something new. The battle is won, but in the silence after victory, how do you lead a world that's only ever known chains? When legends end, what kind of story begins next? Final chapter, after the fire. The world didn't change in a day. Not with the fall of the voice. Not even with the death of High Lord Josiah. But it had changed. The people once shackled by holy fear now walked beneath the sun without flinching. In the streets of cities once ruled by gold-robed tyrants, laughter returned like a forgotten hymn. The grand temples, those towering sanctuaries where whispers once dared not rise above a murmur, stood empty now. Their incense had burned out. Their gods had fallen quiet. And in the ruined heart of the old world, at the edge of a city that had once trembled beneath the order's gaze, Lisa stood before the crumbling cathedral. She looked up at its broken spire, a blade that had once threatened the sky. Now, it jutted upward like a snapped bone, jagged and painful, a monument to a past that refused to vanish cleanly. They hadn't come as victors. They came as witnesses. As caretakers. As something quieter. Lisa led the way inside, her steps echoing against cold stone. Derick walked beside her, close but unintrusive, his presence a comfort without command. Behind them, Abbott followed, his usual mutterings betraying equal parts cynicism and affection. "I hate it here," he said, glancing up at the hollow dome. "Smells like hypocrisy." Lisa smiled faintly. "It smells like old stone." "Same thing." Inside, the sanctuary was a skeleton of what it had been. Sunlight sliced through shattered stained glass, scattering colored light across dust-laden pews. The altar had long since crumbled. The silence was not reverent, it was honest. At the center stood a statue, familiar and broken. The blindfolded goddess of justice, cracked at the base, still holding her scales. Still watching. Still waiting. Lisa stepped forward, the white flower in her hand trembling only slightly. She knelt and placed it at the statue's feet. Not as a prayer. As a promise. That night, flames danced in the courtyard where doctrine had once ruled. People gathered, not in robes or uniforms, but in laughter and song. Children played. Former knights toasted with scarred hands. Even ex-priests, those who had turned their backs on absolution, found warmth in the firelight. Derick taught a gaggle of curious villagers how to cook wild mushrooms without setting their hair alight. Lisa stood nearby, wine in her hand, watching joy reshape a world once broken. Mara approached her, her eyes reflecting the flame. "Do you miss it?" the old woman asked. "The power?" Lisa didn't answer right away. She didn't have to. "I miss believing it had meaning." Mara sipped her wine. "Then give it meaning." Later, under a quiet sky, Derick found her gazing at the stars. "Do you still see them?" he asked. "The stars?" He shook his head. "The saints. The ones you thought you disappointed." She was quiet for a long time. "I think they're still watching," she said. "But I don't think they're angry anymore." "Why not?" She turned to him with a calm smile. "Because I finally chose for myself. Not out of fear. Not because someone told me I had to. I chose." He didn't answer. He just kissed her. Softly. Like a vow. The next morning, Lisa stood before the crowd. There was no throne behind her. No crown on her head. Just her voice. "I'm not your saintess," she said. "Not anymore. I'm not your ruler. I'm not your savior." She paused. Her voice didn't tremble, it rang. "I'm your witness. I've seen what the world was. I know what it could be. So let's build it. Together." The crowd roared. Abbott muttered somewhere off to the side, "Now you sound like a politician." Lisa smirked. "Don't tempt me." Years passed. But the stories didn't fade. They traveled like seeds in the wind, tales of a woman who gave up divinity to live, truly live. Of a demon who laid down his fire, not because he was tamed, but because he was free. Of a knight who raised children instead of banners. These weren't fairy tales. They were real. And in a small house by the cliffs, far from the ruins of cathedrals and the weight of crowns, Lisa woke each morning with Derick's hand in hers. No bells. No prayers. No saints. Only peace. Some love burns kingdoms. Some love heals them. Theirs had done both. And every scar had been worth it. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new story. See you in the next one.